Our goal today is to do a bit of a deep dive into a Microsoft application called Windows Intune. For those of you on the call that are familiar with it, you'll get an update on the most current release and some very, very impressive enhancements that have been added into the Microsoft Intune offering. For those of you that are not familiar with the Intune platform, I think you'll find it very informative and a honestly very strategic way of considering doing desktop management inclusive of remote control, hardware, software, inventory, and more importantly, or as importantly, is the ability to provide access to the latest Windows 7, Windows 8 licensure and make sure that your organization is in compliance at all times and have the ability to support everything you need going forward. So with that, I'm going to kick off the slideshow. I'm going to keep this presentation from the slides are really exciting to between 15 and 25 minutes. We will then welcome Kofi Banwa from Microsoft, who is an Intune specialist, who will take us into the application itself from a cloud perspective. And finally, at the end of the meeting, we will open it up for questions and answers and go from there. So with that, I'm going to begin the presentation. The agenda for today's call, I sort of skipped ahead. Sorry, I have a bad habit of doing that. But as IT professionals today, we all have the challenge of our CEOs walking into the building with their iPad or their iPod or their Windows ClickPad or whatever, and they want access to everything at all times. Your job, our job, is to make sure that we give our bosses what they want without opening the organization up to litigation, having data get exposed to the public, etc. We're going to talk about the way we address that, both from a desktop as well as from a mobile device perspective. We're going to go into the available functional capabilities of Intune, both cloud-based and premise. We're going to talk about some of the new features, and then, of course, the important piece, we're going to take a look at the application infrastructure itself. First of all, just to get going, we're going to throw some facts and figures at you, and if I don't hear too many people hanging up, I'd be happy. All of these numbers and what you're seeing on the screen, we're all aware of. My 15-year-old son has a more capable cell phone that I had for many years, can basically connect to and from anywhere. And all of our users want to bring that stuff in, including iPads, etc. All too often, organizations do not have or are not prepared to make sure that the people that are out there are accessing the data they need easily, but more importantly, making sure it's not ending out everywhere. So we have numbers here from IDC and from Forrester, et cetera, but we're all pretty familiar with the challenges of mobile devices. So moving ahead, this is a bit of a reiteration of what I mentioned on the last slide, but your users, they walk in the door, okay? Based on the trends that are going on today, they want to do whatever, whenever, or wherever, from whatever device they can get their hands on, okay? From an IT perspective, we're challenged with maintaining or reducing OpEx and CapEx expenses. But we're also challenged with making sure users can get what they need easily. And finally, we need to be able to prove that they can get the stuff, easy to get to, but it's only going where it belongs, and it's just not the Wild West out there. So the big challenge as IT professionals we have to overcome, because the good old days where you unplug the wire and said, sorry, you can't get in, they're gone. So, and in a little bit more detail, you're talking about empowering our users so they can do what they want, whenever and wherever. So, look, our goal goals in life have to be to make sure our organizations are safe from the big bad world of hackers, but we need to be able to make sure that our users can get access to something. And the hard part, we have to prove it. So the Intune offering gives you the ability to leverage current investments in management, Active Directory security, while delivering the latest and greatest technologies to your end users. So, moving ahead. I keep skipping ahead and talking to the next slide, so stop, no laughing at me, but apologize for that. I'm going to just skip this one because I talked to it. Now, in the Intune world, our goal is to, again, give access and maintain control. With and from the earlier in the slideshow, we talked about the numbers of smart devices that are out there, whether it's a phone or an iPad or whatever. And again, repetition, giving users access to it is wonderful and marvelous. We, as IT, we all know that the answer is the simpler we make something for a client, the harder it is for us. Okay. Intune helps us move down the road of delivering from a single management console that applies all of our policies, not just desktop management or mobile device management or pads or what they have access to, but it gives us a single pane of glass to apply and enforce policies while taking advantage of your current investments in Active Directory, firewalls, and other applications such that users are being managed, allowed, or not allowed access to the resources within the organization. Okay? And to take that to the next level, what Microsoft has done is they have taken the Windows Intune environment, which is a cloud-based management environment. They've integrated into the latest version of System Center 2012, okay, such that for clients that have investments in System Center from a management perspective, SCCM, they're using Ops Manager, whatever, they can then, instead of building a desktop management infrastructure, they can leverage the infrastructure that's being provided to them in Microsoft, but be able to control it through that single on-prem console. And again, leverage Active Directory to make sure the people that need what they need get it, and vice versa. With the added advantage of mobile devices. Okay? Today, in many organizations that we deal with, Champion, Microsoft, many companies, we're out there helping millions of users migrate email, SharePoint, Link, etc., other software as a service applications into the cloud. Well, security is always a big issue. Integrating and taking advantage of Active Directory, multiple 2- or 3-factor authentication service offerings, etc., we oftentimes will have enterprise management taking care of our servers and our applications, etc. But Exchange, ActiveSync being the most popular methodology for communicating to smart devices, okay, is a very good, excellent piece of technology. But in the good old days with our friends at BlackBerry always had very, very detailed capabilities that you could do with a BES server. Microsoft ActiveSync, because it supports such a large plethora of platforms, has to be not quite as detailed. And to that end, this marketplace of mobile device management has grown up. Mobile device management is, to organizations, typically in the top 2 security issues that they're looking to address 2013, 2014, because they want to give people whatever, whenever, wherever, but make sure that they're protecting the organization. Intune and Microsoft, what they've done is they've married the MDM offering through Intune into your enterprise-capable systems management solution, System Center. Okay? So now, from a single console, utilizing Active Directory for authentication authorization, utilizing a single platform, you can now apply policies to all of the different devices. Okay, and as we go forward, you'll see what I mean by that. Now, here I am talking about the slide ahead. Sorry about that, guys and gals. Now, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is a high-level architectural overview of the offering, okay? And on the screen, you may notice some things that you go, didn't know that, okay? As we said, we're looking to unify into a single admin console the Windows Intune, which is a hosted System Center, as well as System Center, the FAT, if you will, on-premise. System Center 2012, or SCCM, manages Windows, Intel, socket on a chip, in Windows or Go, Macintosh, etc. When you add in the Windows Intune, okay, you're taking the full functional capabilities of it and applying those to the different mobile devices, iOS, Android, Windows, RT, etc. So, whoops, I got a little crazy on my butt. Now, what we're going to talk about is the current Intune, just so we're all on the same page a little bit. We're also going to talk about some of the new things that are coming out. And I made a couple of changes to the slide, specifically the hybrid. When you add in directory synchronization, Active Directory synchronization enables you to replicate your email and other Active Directory objects on the Azure hosted Active Directory. Okay? In May, password synchronization will happen. We do this all the time for Office 365 and others, but with that and System Center, we have the ability to take advantage of the infrastructure in the cloud as well as leveraging your infrastructure on-premise. So now, an overview of the current release of Intune. Basically, I'm not going to read what you're looking at, but at the end of the day, what it's going to give you is hardware, software inventory, software distribution, third-party, Windows upgrades. All of this is policy-based and driven. Ability to use the Microsoft desktop virus, malware, etc. That's included. The ability to do remote control to the desktop. Okay. And to make a true differentiation, I believe, between standard Intel and other companies that do desktop management, Microsoft also gives you access to the latest and greatest OS, okay, Windows 7, Windows 8. And based on your licensing, whether you're an enterprise agreement or possibly a volume license or a small, medium business that buys software as needed, there are pricing models that cover you, okay? You own Windows licensure? Great. You buy this license of Intune, sorry. You need to get upgraded to 7 or 8, you buy a different license, okay? But at the end of the day, if you own Windows XP Pro, you're running on Office 2007 or 2010, your goal is to get your computers to at least Windows 7, more likely Windows 8, because you've got 12 months until Windows XP is basically tombstoned. Office 2007 is going away quickly. I mean, this can help update, upgrade, make sure your organization is legal and taking advantage of the latest and greatest technologies. So it's an easy way to get legal. It's an easy way to manage being legal, and it's an easy way to keep your organization secure while allowing people access to data from wherever they need to be. Okay? I see that a question was sent through. We will be addressing questions at the end, but yes, you do have the ability to push third-party software updates through MSI or other solutions, and we'll talk about that as we go through, and we can talk about that at the end of the demonstration, and I'm sure we'll take a look at that. Now, in the new version of Windows Intune, which was released several weeks ago, it's enhancements, basically. Okay, the enhancements, again, I'm not going to read a slide to you because it's boring, but the point is that they've added two things that are huge. Support for the Windows 8 RT and the Windows 8 phones in a little bit greater detail. They've changed or increased the licensing up to 5 devices per user. And they've taken the Intune environment from very focused on the small, medium business, 100, 200, 500, maybe 1,000 desktops. With the integration to SCCM, there really is no, I mean, yes, on paper the limit is 100,000, but I mean, they're really, the limits have been taken off because they've married the full power of the SCCM System Center premise to and giving you heavy-duty capabilities in the cloud. So moving ahead, this is a little bit of a reiteration of the what is Intune, where has it been. Okay, it's about a 2-year-old product. Okay, when it first came out, I really thought it was great. Shortly after its release, they started offering third-party software distribution. Okay, about a year ago, they offered integration to Office 365 for multiple reasons: authentication, authorization, software updates, software distribution, etc. At that point, they also added the first iteration, if you will, from a mobile device management. As of now, or as of in the last 6 to 8 weeks, they've added the RT and the Phone 8 MDM. And just a few weeks ago, they offered an update that now, Service Pack 1 and SCCM, it offers native tight integration between the Intune in the cloud and System Center. So when you buy Intune, for example, if you buy it for one user, because that's the minimum, 1 or 5 or 500 or 5, whatever the number is, you have then the right to use the SCCM premise. Okay? For small companies, it may or may not be required. Okay? For larger companies that may have other System Center, may have SCOM, Ops Manager, or other tools that are all putting up into it, it's a natural evolution for utilizing that System Center investment you have and, frankly, reducing the infrastructure you have to support. Because a significant percentage of System Center has been for managing desktops. So it's very cool. And, frankly, the Intune environment is it's fun to work in. It's reasonably easy. And we all know how fun systems management can be. So Microsoft simplifies the SCCM environment into what they would consider 2 options. I consider there to be more options, but, you know, it's really a matter of we want to get a better handle on our desktops. Great. Where are we from a licensing perspective? Do we own Windows 7? Do we own Windows 8? What is our plan to move ahead? Are we good at Windows upgrades, or do we do one every 6 months, whether we need to or not? Bottom line is to keep your organization secure. We all know the reality is we should try to keep our endpoints, applications, etc., as updated as possible because, frankly, most of the updates don't fix stupid stuff. Most of them fix security holes. And I know that's a really horrible, hasty generalization, and you can laugh at me all you want. But the point is that this enables you from a desktop perspective to manage policy, take advantage of group policies you have now, ability to update, maintain your endpoint, and frankly, maintain the quality of service that your users are going through. Understand in advance what the problem is, and when a user can pull up a screen and go, help me, click here, you get an email in your inbox, or you get a link message that pops up and says, hey, John needs help. You click here, John on the other side says, yes, come in and help me, you're on remote control. Very cool, it's very quick, easy to use, and again, it's an application that's built into the Windows environment. So this is from a Microsoft perspective, okay? This is their plan. They want to make things easier, okay? They're looking to give you a single pane of glass, okay, to look into your environment, reduce your reliance upon, frankly, public Windows upgrade services, get control of it, and push control out to your mobile devices. So that's their cool secret. Don't tell anybody. Microsoft's keeping that as trying to keep that under their hat. So Windows Intune today. There you go. You sign up, windowsintune.com. 1 user, 5 users, 50 users. Okay, you get native access, support, etc. for 8.7 Vista. I know there's a lot of people on the phone that are pushing Vista as we go forward. Haha, chuckle, chuckle. But one of the biggest challenges that you have facing you in the next 6, 9, 12 months is XP. XP is dead. Long live 7. Oops, wait a minute, 8. And with a proliferation, I love that word, of the different MDMs, Windows 8, Windows whatever, iOS, and Droid, we need a simple, easy, affordable way to manage that stuff. So, as we have gone forward, Microsoft has enhanced its MDM capabilities. It enhanced its direct integration to your on-premise Exchange environment, Office 365 Exchange environment, any Exchange environment where you have access to ActiveSync. You have the ability to integrate in here and take advantage of the mobile device management policy. So sorry, I went too far. And again, as I said, you do have the ability to take advantage of your Active Directory for authentication, authorization, etc. You have the ability to create a web store, corporate web store, where your users are directed to utilize or to implement Windows 7, Windows 8, iOS, Droid, approved applications for your organization. Okay? And we can talk about that in later detail as we go through the presentation. So it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't have an eye chart to take a look at. Okay? And keep in mind that we're looking at the Intune environment both from a desktop OS perspective as well as from an MDM or mobile device management perspective. And as you can see, most of the boxes have little check marks in it. But, for example, Endpoint Protection, virus software, okay? Currently it's, of course, supported in Windows 7 and Vista and 8. They do not have a virus solution for the RT or the phone environments. Typically, I've worked with other MDM providers. Typically, it's a very controlled environment. You're managing what can get delivered to it from a silo environment. They're working on enhancing the full functionality of the MDM. They've only been doing it for a year. They're getting great at it. But there's always cool features that are coming down the road, so they're trying their best to keep up to date. For those of you that might have noticed, remote control shows you the different platforms that's supported. And surprise, surprise, Windows 8 isn't supported in the current release of the remote control. Microsoft is not perfect. They try hard. But Live Meeting and Easy Assist are the platforms. They're currently in rewrite, and that enhancement I expect to see in the not-too-distant future. But I thought it was interesting, and I giggled a little when I saw it. So, and then from a compliance perspective, we all have compliance challenges. Okay, compliance monitoring is critical. Okay, in the MDM world, what they're going to do is they're going to give you the ability to set up, maintain compliance. Okay, currently, the remediation. In other words, what do I need to do to stop this break of my compliance from specifically from an MDM perspective? Well, bottom line is if we're relying on an MDM to manage that level of compliance, there are multiple points prior to you get to the MDM where that compliance should be managed, or should be remediated. But the point is it's going to tell you about it. I just don't have a way to make it your central point of remediation for compliance. So they're going to continue to improve in it in Office 365, for example, and Exchange 2013. Microsoft has rolled out extremely comprehensive DLP pieces or DLP policies that you can utilize, that you can edit, you can update, etc. But they're very impressive. And I have a lot of clients, healthcare and other, that are seriously taking advantage of it because it frankly reduces the cost of them developing a data loss prevention policy for their email and by extension ActiveSync devices. So we're getting near the end, so I hope everybody's happy. With SCCM or Config Manager SP1, okay, as you can see, all of the different platforms that are supported. The nice part is tomorrow, you could go to windowsintune.com, sign up for a 30-day demo, and be working at it in the cloud. You could put a half a dozen devices up there, understand how it works, start doing Windows upgrades, start doing third-party software distribution, whatever. And I recommend we all use Adobe because it's always the easiest and the most common to test with. But then, depending on the comfort level with what you find in the cloud, then we can do the integration to System Center. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, and that way, based on either current investment, future plans, etc., you have the ability to put that console on premise, and browsers are always perfectly fast and they work exactly correct and really, really fast all the time. But at the end of the day, fat apps running on a Windows server tend to be a little bit spiffier, a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying. So, but it's a choice. You could start here and add to there. It's not a matter of I have to make a decision now and I'm stuck with it forever. So, just a little bit more detailed architectural overview. Okay, and what it's going to just show you is, whoops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. It's going to show you just what I just said. Basically, you can start again with the Windows Intune, and what it's doing is looking at all the pieces of your environment, all the different platforms that you want to support now, and those platforms that bring your own device. I had to say it once. It wouldn't have been any fair if I didn't use that BYOD acronym at least once. It can help simplify the process of you or your organization rolling out and applying and supporting reasonably well bring your own devices. So, as I said earlier in the call, the way the licensing has been done is the licensing is available two ways: through enterprise agreement, okay, and then there's the ever popular Microsoft acronym EA, EAS, EES, and first guy to shout out the answers wins a Coke or something. But two basically ways to do it: under a current enterprise agreement of some sort, or you can buy it through Microsoft's portal, okay? MOSP, Microsoft Online Services Portal or something. But the licenses that are available for non-EA clients, there's two. $6 one basically gives you System Center, Intune management, cloud-based, and the ability to put it on-premise. MDM, software distribution, both Windows upgrades and third-party. Okay, reports, license management, both Microsoft and non-Microsoft license, ability to do directory sync, ability to do global policies, manage groups, etc. And then it's that whole long list that we went through. Now, for the $6 a month, that's what you get. $6 times number of workstations times 12 months. Now, if you're interested or have a need, business challenge, to make sure that your licensing is legal, Windows. You're on Windows XP. You're on Windows 7, okay? Windows 7 is going to be around for 4 or 5 years, okay? But with Windows Intune, at the $11, you're getting access to the Windows Enterprise licensure, Windows 7 and Windows 8, okay? So, for that $5 a month, you get access to the latest and greatest OS updates, upgrades, etc. Now, it's an ongoing, you pay it every month from now till forever. If at some point in the future the organization makes changes, etc., Microsoft does have a way where you can pay X dollars and then you own the license on premise. So it's not like once they get you in, they're going to hold a gun to your head and you're stuck and, oh, you want to get out? Yeah, you got to uninstall all your operating systems. No, they've got that covered, so they're pretty good about it. Contracts are done, 12-month increments. After the first contract, you have the right to cancel on basically with a 30-day notice. But most customers that I have, whether it's in Intune, Office 365, Dynamics CRM, etc., once they get going, they quickly come to the conclusion that Office 365 turns email, SharePoint, links, etc., into utility applications. Okay, they just work. Okay, are they perfect? Yeah. When I find the perfect application, I'll let you guys know, but I haven't found one yet. But they're pretty darn close. The level of services are excellent. The financially backed service level agreement that starts at 99.5%, and the SLA is actually straightforward. It's 3 lines long. So, and excuse me, I apologize. Now, as I said, $11 a month. You can mix and match. So if you have a bunch of licenses, but you want to do Intune for management, great. You do 6. You need something where you got to do Windows upgrades, great. You go with the 11. Okay. And then on the enterprise agreement, if I could explain enterprise agreements, I would know Greek. But the point is for organizations, they can enhance and take advantage of their current agreements with Microsoft. So they're not purchasing new. We take advantage of the large account resellers who speak Microsoft EA language, so we're all good. So almost done. From a geographical perspective, Microsoft has data centers. They basically have 3 data center clusters around the world: North America, Europe, Asia Pacific. If your company pays the bill in the United States, your primary data centers will be North America, Europe, primary data centers Europe, etc. Okay? This slide basically is showing you language support as well as geographic support. A lot of it has to do with legalities. So, for example, if there are countries on here that are missing, typically the reason they're going to be missing is, 1, utilizing or delivering the Microsoft licensure this way is against the rules. 2, they may not have language support, but quite honestly, that's not very often the problem. So, moving ahead. Next, Microsoft offers 30-day downloads of the Intune, windowsintune.com. They give you the full functionality for the 30 days. Typically, and I'm jumping up and down now, I promise, I don't recommend you do have access to all the functionality. I do not recommend that you download and implement operating systems, because if you don't buy, it's a problem. Okay? I suggest, and this is what we do for all of our clients, yes, it can do all of this cool stuff, and you can spend the next month of your life figuring out all the cool Neato, Bandito policies, etc. Focus on 5 workstations. Understand how Windows upgrades work. Understand how the remote controls work. Understand how third-party software distribution works. Maybe run some reports, but who really cares? And then focus on MDM. Pick a couple of devices. Pick a Windows phone. Pick a Droid. Pick an iPhone. And do it and find out if it meets or exceeds your company's requirements. So if you try to learn all of the features of Intune in 30 days, you'll fail. If you try to learn 10 of them, you'll be extremely successful, and at the end of the 30 days, okay, be able to make a very informed decision. So with that, I have come to the end of the slideshow. Applause. Thank you. My intent is now to turn it over to Kofi from Microsoft. Microsoft is going to run through the Prezo, and I've seen some questions coming across. Good afternoon, Ken. Nice to hear from you. We'll get you all the answers. So, Kofi, with that, it's all you, man.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kofi Bewa, as Jim mentioned earlier. I'm with Microsoft. I'm the Microsoft specialist. I cover all of Mid-Atlantic and the greater Southeast region. I cover customers from our largest enterprise customers right down to our small and mid-sized business customers. So I'm very pleased to be speaking with you all today and walking you through Windows Intune. What I've done is I've shared my desktop, so hopefully you can see it. I wanted to, right out the gate, because I saw there are some questions in the IM queue, address those really quickly and actually show you the answers to some of these questions, as well as walk through, at a high level, the the console itself, so you can get a feel for what it looks like if you haven't seen it before. I'm not certain if they're going to open up the phone lines for questions, but if the administrator would like to, they can go ahead and open that line now, and you can interrupt me if you have any specific questions. Otherwise, just type your question in the IM window, and I'll address it that way. So with that said, I'd like to start with Jason. Jason had a question about whether or not Windows Intune can push updates for non-Microsoft software, such as Adobe Reader and Java, etc. So the answer to that question very quickly is yes. I'm clicking here to the Updates panel. So WSUS is integrated into Windows Intune. So when you deploy Windows Intune, if you have a WSUS server that's pointing to any of your client devices, you would basically be able to kill that WSUS server. All of that stuff is now going to be handled and managed through Windows Intune. So you'll have the ability to view all updates. Critical updates will automatically be downloaded, and from in here you can actually take applications that, or excuse me, updates from this panel. You can select one, you can select multiple, and then you can select to approve or decline these updates. Now that might be a bit arduous, as you well know. There are regular Microsoft updates, so there might be a number of updates that apply, so you can set policies that will allow you to select mandatory updates. And mandatory updates are very nice because you basically are setting a policy saying that any critical updates are mandatorily or automatically approved. So administration of selecting every single update and clicking approve is kind of relegated to this automated task, right? So you don't have to do this on a regular basis. You can actually create that policy or that task to just automatically approve critical updates, for example. The other thing I do want to show while we're in the updates section, and the screen is reloading, what's really nice is that if I take any one of these updates, I can right-click on that update. I can view the properties of that update. The demo account that I'm demonstrating from today is a read-only account, which is a level of account that has restricted access. This is because this is a demo site we at Microsoft use worldwide, so all of our global sellers are actually using this site, so they don't want us to write to it. But you can see that you can edit, approve, decline here. One other thing you can also see that's really nice is you can actually see, just by clicking on an update, what computers actually need the update, what computers actually have it installed, what computers, if it has been approved, has it had failures installing, and which ones have pending installation. So you do have right-click functionality. And to get to Jason's question, in this demo account we do not have a non-Microsoft update, but the answer is yes, we can do that through WSUS. The key requirement is that the application itself be registered with our update service at microsoftupdate.com. And if it's registered with Update, you can import it into this WSUS engine, and it would come into all of these non-Microsoft updates. So Adobe and the like can be updated here. If the package is not registered with update.microsoft.com, then the way we would handle it is through deploying updates like as a software package. So hopefully that answers Jason's question. The next question was from Robert, who asked about report of application usage and the ability to tell whether or not Intune installed the application or not. So Intune, I'm going to go here to the software pane. There are two ways you manage software with Intune. There's detected software, which is what the question is around. So Windows Intune will detect all software on the machine, whether Windows Intune installed that software package or not. So that device, any software that's installed, we do a full asset hardware and software inventory of everything that's registered to that machine. What we do not do is flag it and say this was installed by Intune. the way you can see what applications are installed by Intune by doing a software inventory report or software installation report. And that'll tell you all the software that Intune installed. Everything else would obviously be software that Intune didn't install. If you wanted to uninstall software that Intune didn't install, you can do that. The way you would do that is create an uninstall package and deploy that to uninstall the software. To prevent PCs from installing software that you don't want, you would use group policy and use a tool called App Locker that's built into Windows 7. App Locker allows you to create whitelists and blacklists of applications that can and can't be installed on the PC. And that currently is controlled through group policy, not through Windows Intune. And then the last question was, how do I know when my current per-device licenses are converted into per-user licenses? So we've already had the change, and that change happened officially on December 1st from a licensing perspective. We have a worldwide rollout of the service across the globe. So our last update, I think, ended around late February, early March. So all users worldwide should be at the current version of the Intune service. What you should notice, if you go to your administrative tab and you see number of devices allowed, if you had 1,000 licenses that you purchased, you should now see that to say 5,000 devices. That doesn't mean that you've got licenses for 4,000 extra devices. What we've basically done is every user has the ability to manage up to 5 devices. So your instance, and when we do the provisioning on the back end, will allow you to have up to 5,000 devices. To be compliant with licensing, if you have another user that enters in your environment, you need to add an Intune license. And you will see that every user that you add to your subscription, you'll see it allow for up to 5 devices for that user. It doesn't mean that you can let multiple users use a single license to manage their device. So I know that might be a little bit confusing, but you should be able to go in your administrative console, look and see the devices allowed, and it should be 5x times the number of licenses you've currently purchased. So with that, continuing on, I just wanted to address those questions up front with you all. And I want to walk through some of the other parts of Windows Intune. What I've done here is I've logged into the administrative console from a web browser that's running Silverlight. And that's one of the nice things about Windows Intune is that if you're managing, you can manage from anywhere that you have a browser. You install the client agent on all the PCs that you'd like to manage, and immediately they begin reporting to the cloud, and then you as IT can log into the management site and manage these machines wherever you are. One of the best scenarios for Intune is for devices that have no management, devices that may be outside of your existing firewall. Maybe you already have some management in place, and Intune is a great fit for you because I have a bunch of PCs that are not currently managed. Maybe I have contractors or consultants or sales folks that are constantly out on the field, and it's very difficult for us to manage them because they're not always connected to VPN and don't always have connectivity to our resources at corporate. So what Intune allows us to do is manage these devices over ports 80 and 443. So all they need is an internet connection, and you're able to get all these management capabilities to those devices. So managing unmanaged PCs that are outside of the network or contractors or remote workers is a great use case for Windows Intune. And then if I'm IT, no matter where my end users are, I'll be able to log in, see the system overview. We have alerts. So this is where you'll come 99% of the time as an IT admin. It's very simple, straightforward. It's not complex. The learning curve to use Intune is very shallow. It's not a steep curve. Red, yellow, green indicates the things that need to be addressed directly and quickly versus things that we have a little bit of time on and informational. So the alerts, I can filter them based on category and severity. If I come down I can see that I have this box here that shows me my status of endpoint protection. So one of the very nice things about Windows Intune is that bundled into the client is the ability to have endpoint protection, and that's Microsoft's anti-malware and antivirus software. That comes with your Windows Intune subscription. It's not an additional add-on. It's part of the service. So a really nice thing is if you have an antivirus or anti-malware solution and you purchase Intune because you like some of the other capabilities it provides, know that you get this endpoint protection as well. And I highly encourage you to use it, at least in part, while you're using your current solution, because you might see that endpoint protection within Intune works just as well, if not better, than your current solution. And when you come up for renewal, that might be another way that you can justify the cost of Intune and save money on your overall spend. What's nice about the endpoint protection in Windows Intune is that you can see here, this is telling me that I have one malware instance that's running on a computer. And because this is all running through a web browser, if I click on any instance, whether it's the computer itself, whether it's the malware, it'll take me right to that instance, right? So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 computers affected by a particular malware, I can do one click and get to all those affected PCs. I can right-click on that PC, and again, because this is a read-only access that I'm using today, you can't see it, but this remote tasks has a flyout that would allow me to right-click on that device or group of devices and do a remote full scan, quick scan, quarantine that device. So really nice right-click access. Again, I could be in a Starbucks with an internet connection and doing all this as an IT admin. Now, if I'm using a third-party antivirus solution, what's nice about Intune is that I would still see this status information here. I would still see that I have infected machines. And what Intune is actually able to do is it can actually look at Security Center, which is built into Windows, and it'll ask, is antivirus already installed? If it is it up to date on definitions, and is the PC affected by any known malware threats? It'll ask that information of Security Center, which is given by your third-party antivirus, and it'll give that information to Intune. So Intune will still be able to report on it here. The only difference is if you're using your third-party antivirus, remember when I clicked on this computer, it took me to the computer, I could right-click and I could quarantine it, I can run a quick scan or a full scan. Well, if I'm using a third-party solution, I'd have to jump into that console and do the remediation there. Intune will only report on what it reads from Security Center if I'm using a third party. Again, this is a great place where you can save money in the long term if you subscribe to Intune. I talked about updates earlier at the beginning, but you'd see update information here. So if I'm IT and I say, okay, I need to approve 38 updates, I can just go to it from there. Windows Intune has some System Center Operations Manager code. And with that Operations Manager code, we're able to do alerts and do some light monitoring on the PCs itself. So we can tell what agents aren't reporting, what's offline, and we can also set alerts when things like hard disk space or memory is going low, or even around core components like Office. We can actually do some reporting when we're getting poor performance out of some of the applications, Microsoft applications like Office. This policy here is really around mobile devices, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So you can see what devices are having errors or issues with policy settings, and then we can look at device health as well. And we can also monitor what software installations have had errors. So we put some pre-populated data to kind of show some of those things actually lit up here. If you scroll down, you can see the computer summary. So it's really nice at a snapshot for you to say, you know, I want to know how many laptops we have in our environment versus desktops. So you can very easily see, because again, as we're doing a full hardware inventory, we're reading the SM BIOS information, so we can read things like the chassis type and like the manufacturer. You might notice some unknowns here or some others. That that indication there is some of our machines that we're using are actually running in virtual machines. So we can use Intune in virtual machines. And the primary use case for that is around Mac OS. Intune does not natively manage Mac OS X today. What we can do, however, is manage a corporate image that's running Windows in a static virtual machine that is hosted on that device. So if you're using Parallels on a Mac device that's running Windows to run Windows application, we can absolutely install Windows Intune into that virtual machine and provide management to that virtual machine. The key there is that Intune can only manage virtual machines that are basically standalone static virtual machines. We do not manage streamed virtual machines using VDI today. That's a little bit more complex, and there's technical reasons around that. But if it's a pure static virtual machine, you can absolutely install Intune in that and manage it just like you would a regular desktop. You can see here we see the top operating systems. This is a dynamic list, so it will only show you operating systems that actually exist in your environment. So you will never see something with a 0 here. We manage Windows XP SP3 and above. And then you can see here, this is some of the operations manager stuff where we're seeing how much disk space is being used by the various machines in your organization. So right here, you might want to take an action item, and we say we have 65 machines here in a group that have 90% plus disk utilization. So if I click on that, I'll see all 65 machines here, and I might want to target all of these machines for hard drive upgrades. Because performance might be an issue. Last but not least, on the summary page, we can see a listing of all the mobile operating system at a high-level glance here. So you can see we manage Windows Phone and iOS, whether it be iPad or iPhone. We manage the latest version, iOS 6, as well as Windows RT. And I got a question here. What are the asset management? So we do the asset management we do with hardware and software inventory, and we have reporting on hardware and software inventory. What we don't do is software metering or anything like that. So what we can detect is, how many licenses you've installed or that are installed on machines, and we can run reports based on your current licensing, how many licenses you've actually purchased, and I'll show you really quickly the licensing view. So we do that hardware inventory for all devices. So if I click on all devices here, it might take a little while to load. 1 second here, but I'll show you the information. And actually, let me just go to all computers. So on the mobile side, I'll just double click on an iPad here. This is Jamie's iPad. So this is all the hardware information. We can get the serial number, the unique ID, the IMEI information if it's available, the MEID, so forth. And we can export this information. If I go to the upper right hand corner, I can export this to an Excel spreadsheet. I can print it out. For a PC, let me just go to a computer here. It takes a little while to load. For PC, I can do pretty much the same thing. So I'll just click on a machine. On a per machine basis, I can see what updates are on that machine. If this machine has malware alerts, I'll click on the hardware tab and show you the information that we're doing here. So we can get all of the stuff that you would get from on-prem System Center. We can get within Windows Intune as well. So we're getting logical disk information, network adapter information, network configuration, monitor information, so all of this stuff. Again, similar to the mobile devices, we can export this information and we can print it out. Let's make sure we have another question. Nope. So I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to keep going a little quick because We're running close to time here, but grouping is very important with Windows Intune. As Jim said earlier, we do integrate with Active Directory. And when you integrate with Active Directory, you'll get this all users container. This will sync. We can use dir sync, again, to sync your on-prem AD to the cloud with Windows Azure, and then we import that into Windows Intune. You do not have to import your entire AD OU structure into the cloud or into Intune itself. You can selectively choose specific groups that you want to sync with Intune. When you do that, however, it allows you to do user-based targeting, which is very important when we start talking about managing mobile devices. What we do with mobile devices is we associate them with their identity in Active Directory. So you might have a person's iPad, a person's Windows Surface tablet, and their PC. And what we do is we just take users and we associate devices. So we can click on any given user and we can look at all of the devices that are associated to that user. And when that user enrolls their mobile device for management, we're using their AD identity to bind that. And that helps us with targeting for applications as well. We can also use containers for devices. So I mentioned that Intune is great for unmanaged PCs. I mentioned that there's endpoint protection built in, but one of the nice areas where Intune is also very useful is in areas where there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So a lot of times, we might be in a company that has acquired other smaller companies or has been acquired, and we want to look into assets, and we don't want to necessarily have these devices on the domain. So we can actually install Intune agent on this new entity, and we can create computer groups of this entity, and we can get all the asset inventory, all the software and hardware inventory. We can update, patch, do all those things through Intune, and we can just associate them to specific groups that aren't on our domain. We can also emulate our OU structure that is in our domain as well. This is also, again, used for targeting, so you can use it for targeting applications, updates, patches, you name it. I talked about endpoint protection. I mentioned alerts. I talked a little bit about software, but as I said before, we detect software, but you can also deploy software with Windows Intune. We deploy software directly to PCs as well as mobile devices. So what you'll see is that we have an IPA file here, which is a file that we can use to target directly to an iOS device, whether it's a whether it's an iPad or an iPhone. You can also see that we have a package here that we can do what's called deep linking. Deep linking allows us to create a self-service portal and that's of an existing app, but put it in our own self-service company portal. And when the user clicks to install that app, it takes them directly to the app that already exists in the Apple Store. You can see here we can deploy AppX files, which get deployed on Windows 8 devices. We can deploy applications similar to the iOS that are already in the store, again, deep linking. We can install MSI files natively to the PC, and we can deploy native files, ZAP files for Windows Phone 8. So what Intune can become is your company portal, your company hub for your corporate applications. If you use Intune, you do not have to, if you have the native code to install on iOS, Android. We don't have an Android here, but that's IPK. If you have iOS, Android, or Windows Phone 8, or even Windows RT, you can use Intune as that company portal. You do not have to go to the Windows Store. You do not have to go to the iTunes Store. You do not have to go to Google Play Store. Intune can do all of that for you. We can do licensing, as I said. We can use web services to pull in your Microsoft Volume License Agreement, which I know Jim loves. He loves Microsoft Volume Licensing. You can also import third-party agreements if you have an Excel or XML-based spreadsheet. So you can import those licenses into Windows Intune, and that gets used here in the reports. So we have pre-built reports where you can run updates. You can do and see what updates are installed versus uninstalled versus pending. Software, what software is installed, not installed, or pending. Computer inventory. Licensing purchase reports. Again, if you are integrated with your Microsoft Volume Agreement or you've imported your own, you would do licensing report, and then license installation reports. So that's again part of the asset management, allowing you the ability to determine what license you've purchased versus what you've installed. And last but not least, we're kind of right at time. The administration tab is where you might spend the initial time with all the setup. So here's where you would create recipients for alerts. Again, if you have different alerts that you want to trigger, say I have a group of VIP folks in our organization, we create a group for them, and any alerts such as poor performance on the PC, we want to set up mail recipients to receive notifications should that user have issues. So here's where we create our notification rules. We set up different administrative accounts. Here's where IT can download the client software. You can include it in your new Windows 7 or Windows 8 image. Here's where we can monitor how much storage you're using against your subscription. Every Intune subscription gets 20 gigs of Azure storage by default for all of your applications. When you upload your application to the cloud, you can deploy it anywhere. We have geo-redundant data centers. The slide Jim showed, we're supported in many countries. So even if you are based here in the U.S. and you have a PC in Hong Kong, if you have the package installed and uploaded to Intune, you can push to folks in Hong Kong if you like. Again, there's some additional steps if you want to manage the mobile devices in terms of uploading certificates. We don't have time to get through that in depth. And then last but not least, I told you that there's a company portal. So here's where you configure all the information. You set up your theme, your color, you upload your company logo, and then you create a self-service portal that looks similar to this one. So you can send links to your end users, and they'll be able to look on a per-user basis, see all of the devices that they currently have managed. They themselves can rename it, remove it from management, or wipe the devices themselves. They can enroll their own device if they like from this portal as well. They can also use this portal to install software. So I can provision the applications, and I can not only push to my PC, I can also make the applications themselves available so that users can install them themselves. So with that, I think we're about 5 minutes over time. I know I spoke pretty quickly. I wanted to leave a few minutes if folks still have the time to ask any questions or enter it in the IM window now. Looks like someone's typing.
And if you have a question on the phone line, you may press *1 to enter the queue. Okay, Mark. Not a question on Intune. I'm just wondering if the presentation will be available later offline. I'm assuming
we'll take care of publishing a link and sending it out to everybody.
Okay. Very good. Well, I'm happy to have spent this time with you this afternoon. Hopefully this was a decent high-level overview that gave you a feel, and some of the things that Jim shared with you either piqued your interest. If you have more questions or want to learn more, you can definitely reach out to Champion. They're one of our great Intune partners. They'll be more than happy to help you and work with me as well to make sure that you can see if Intune makes sense or not for your organization.
All right. I guess we'll call it a call and thank everybody for their time this afternoon.